I've always thought of myself as someone with a good memory. People tell me I remember things too well, but I can't forget this, my twin sister. She was always there, always beside me. At least that's what I thought. But now I know she was never real, and yet I still see her. I sit at my desk, staring at the blank page in front of me. My hair's a tangled mess, and I can feel the weight of exhaustion pulling at my features. The room is small, barely furnished, but it feels oppressive. The air's stale, even with the window cracked open. It doesn't help. Nothing does. The faint hum of traffic outside filters through, muted, as though the world itself doesn't want to intrude. I always talked about Anna, my twin sister. I told everyone how close we were, how we shared everything, thoughts, dreams, secrets. I thought our bond was unbreakable. I thought she was real. But then they told me the truth. Told me I'd been alone all along. I couldn't accept it. I had to know. I had to find out what really happened. My hands tremble as I open the drawer, pulling out a letter. It's old, the edges frayed, the paper yellowed. I unfold it slowly, almost afraid of what I'll see again. The rustle of paper echoes louder than it should in the silent room. My heartbeat quickens in my ears as I read aloud, my voice barely above a whisper. We regret to inform you that your twin sister, Anna, passed away at birth. There was no second child. We've attached the birth certificate and medical records for your reference. The letter slips from my hands, fluttering down to the desk. I can't seem to breathe. My hand moves to my forehead instinctively, trying to push away the sharp, splitting headache that suddenly claws at my skull. The soft tick of the clock in the background grows louder, each second hammering against my ears. Then, footsteps, faint at first but growing closer. I whip my head toward the door. The hallway beyond the door is empty. The sound stops abruptly, leaving me in silence once again. My skin prickles, a shiver running down my spine as if the air itself is watching me. They said it was a mistake, a mix-up in the records. Anna was never real, they told me. I've always been an only child. But how? How could I have imagined her so perfectly, her laugh, her smile, the way her hand felt in mine? How could I have lived my entire life with someone who wasn't there? My eyes wide and searching the empty room, as if the answers are hiding in the shadows. The sound of a faint, childlike laugh echoes from somewhere distant, sending a chill through me. My breath catches and I whisper, almost to myself. Anna, are you there? The laugh fades, replaced by silence. I saw the letter with the words "no second child." The clock ticks once more, impossibly loud, and the room got dark. The room is bathed in shadow, the faint orange glow of the street lamp outside casting distorted shapes on the walls. I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The stillness presses down on me, making every creak of the house seem louder than it should be. A faint, soft giggle cuts through the silence. It's distant but unmistakable, high-pitched, playful, like a child's laughter. My body tenses instantly. It started with the giggling. So soft, almost like it wasn't there at all, but I heard it. Every night I heard it. I told myself it was just stress, just my mind playing tricks on me, but it wasn't. My eyes dart toward the mirror across the room, half hidden in shadow with the stillness in the space. Then, in the reflection, a shadow flickers, small, childlike, and fleeting. My breath catches in my throat and I sit up abruptly. My heart pounds in my ears as the giggling fades, replaced by an unnerving silence. What? What was that? I scramble out of bed, the floor cold under my feet. I walk toward the mirror, my breath quick and shallow. My reflection stares back, alone, unchanged. I press my hand to the glass, but there's nothing. Just me. A faint creak echoes from behind me and I spin around, searching the shadows. I crouch down to peer under the bed, then fling open the closet door. It's empty. It's all empty. I checked everywhere. Under the bed, the closet, nothing. But when I turned around, as I straighten up, turning back toward the room, she's there. A fleeting glimpse of a girl in the corner, a girl who looks just like me. Her features are twisted, wrong, and her eyes are hollow. A sharp gasp escapes my lips as the figure disappears, leaving only the empty room. I saw her. I swear I saw her. It was Anna. It had to be Anna, but how could it be? Anna isn't real. She's never been real, right? My gaze shifts back to the mirror and my stomach knots. The reflection isn't empty anymore. She's there, standing just behind me, her hollow eyes locked onto mine. The soft patter of footsteps grows louder, coming closer, but I can't move. My body feels frozen as her reflection edges nearer, step by step, while I stand still, staring at the glass. I sit at a small cafe table, staring down at the murky swirl of my coffee. The spoon clinks softly against the cup as I stir over and over, not really thinking about it. The air smells stale old coffee, faint traces of something sweet from the counter. The street noise filters in through the window, muffled and distant, but it's just background static. None of it registers. I'm too tired, too scared. I keep telling myself it's all in my head, that Anna never existed, that everything I've been seeing, hearing, is just my grief messing with me. But then, I found the photo. My hands tremble slightly as I pull my phone out of my pocket. I tap on the screen, navigating to an old photo album. The camera focuses on the image I open. 2 little girls in matching dresses, standing hand in hand in front of our old house. My chest tightens as I stare at it. The low hum of the cafe fades into the background, replaced by a sharp ringing in my ears as I focus on the photo. One of the girls is blurry, faded like she doesn't belong there. The edges of the picture flicker, almost imperceptibly. Why is she blurry? She's not real, is she? The camera zooms in on the photo. The distortion spreads, the blurred figure seeming to shift, almost move. Then I hear it a whisper, soft, drawn out like a breath against my ear. A faint voice calls my name, barely audible but unmistakable. Sarah, Sarah, I'm here. My breath catches and I fumble with the phone, nearly dropping it. I glance around the cafe, but no one else reacts. It's just me. Always just me. It's not just the mirrors anymore. Now I hear her voice. I see her. In the corners of my eyes, in the empty spaces where no one should be. She's everywhere, watching me, following me, and I can't trust what I see anymore. I can't trust my own mind. I shove the phone back into my bag, grabbing my coat as I stand abruptly. The chair scrapes against the floor, earning a glance from the barista, but I don't care. I hurry out of the cafe, the cold air hitting me like a slap as I step onto the sidewalk. The city is alive around me, cars honking, conversations blending into a dull roar, but it doesn't feel real. My footsteps echo too loud as I walk quickly, glancing over my shoulder every few seconds. The shop windows reflect the world around me as I pass. For a moment I see her, Anna, standing just behind me in the glass. A small, pale figure, her face turned up toward mine. I spin around, heart racing. There's nothing there, just the bustling street and the empty sidewalk behind me. My throat tightens and I force myself to keep walking, faster now, my pulse pounding in my ears. A faint giggle rises above the city noise carried on the wind. My legs feel like lead, but I can't stop. I can't look back again. I won't. My apartment is suffocatingly quiet, the kind of stillness that presses against your ears. The lights flicker above me, casting fleeting shadows across the walls. I stand in front of the mirror, my face dimly lit by the pale glow of the streetlight outside. The rest of the room is swallowed by darkness. My breathing is shallow, sharp. Each exhale sounds deafening against the silence. The mirror feels alive in front of me, though I can't explain why. I move, just a small shift, but my reflection stays perfectly still. I can't escape her. I've tried everything. I covered the mirrors, locked the doors, even left town. But it doesn't matter. She always finds me. She's in the glass. She's in my dreams, always watching, always smiling. But how? She was never real. Was she? A shadow flickers behind me in the mirror, a small figure just out of focus. My stomach drops as I see her. Anna. Her tiny frame emerges from the darkness, her face wrong in every way. Her eyes are hollow, endless voids that draw my gaze like a trap. The faint creak of movement echoes behind me, though I don't dare turn around. My legs feel like stone. The reflection grins at me, her lips stretching unnaturally wide. My own face stays frozen in terror. She's not copying me. She's separate. "You're not real. You can't be real." My voice trembles, and the words feel meaningless even as I speak them. The camera focuses on my face, my wide eyes locked on the mirror. Slowly, my expression falters, fear giving way to something I can't place. Confusion, doubt, a faint, rhythmic tapping begins, soft but steady. It's coming from the mirror itself, though I can't see her hands move. The tapping seems to pulse in time with my heartbeat. Maybe she was real. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was never alone. Anna's grin stretches further, impossibly wide as her form sharpens, becoming clearer, more real with every second. Her eyes seem to glimmer now, as if she's waiting for me to understand something I've been refusing to see. The tapping stops. Silence returns, thick and heavy. The reflection leans forward, her hollow eyes staring into mine as the screen fades to black. I don't know what's real anymore. All I know is that she's here, and I can't make her go away. Maybe I never will. A call I did not expect. I woke up to the dim glow of my small, cluttered apartment. The stale scent of old books mixed with the bitter tang of cold coffee lingered in the air. The ticking of the wall clock echoed louder than usual, steady, relentless. It felt as if time itself was mocking me. I sat at the kitchen table, my head swimming in a sea of paperwork. Empty coffee mugs surrounded me, each a testament to my sleepless nights. My eyes scanned the same line of text for what felt like the 100th time. My thoughts, though, weren't on the papers. They drifted aimlessly, lost in the monotony of it all. I'd been stuck in this rut for weeks. Same routines, same mistakes. Every day bled into the next, each one as colorless as the last. But sometimes you get this feeling, like something's on the horizon, something you can't quite see, but you know it's there. That day, I didn't realize just how different it would be. Suddenly, my phone rang. The sharp sound pierced the quiet, jolting me out of my trance. My elbow bumped a mug, sending it tumbling. The sound of shattering ceramic echoed through the room. I froze, staring at the pieces before glancing at the phone. The screen glowed faintly, displaying an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. I hesitated, brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear, and finally answered. It wasn't unusual to get calls from numbers I didn't recognize, but something about this one felt off, like the moment before a storm when the air grows heavy and the world seems to hold its breath. I pressed the phone to my ear. At first, there was nothing but static, a faint, crackling hum, then I heard it. It was my voice, but not my voice. It sounded older, rougher, like it carried the weight of years I hadn't lived yet. "Emily, it's me, your future self. I know this sounds impossible, but you have to listen. Something terrible is going to happen. You need to act before it's too late." The phone trembled in my hand. My pulse pounded in my ears as I clutched it tighter, glancing around the room. The familiar surroundings suddenly felt foreign, oppressive. The ticking of the clock grew louder, deeper, more insistent, like a countdown I hadn't noticed until now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It had to be a prank, right? But that voice, it was mine. Older, worn, filled with fear, and something about it, the way it spoke, cut through my disbelief like a knife. I stood there, paralyzed as the static returned, swallowing the voice. The line went dead. The apartment fell silent again, but that silence carried weight like the moments before a scream, and I knew deep in my bones that my life was about to change forever. I found myself pacing the living room, my phone clutched so tightly in my hand it felt like an extension of me. The familiar hum of the refrigerator filled the silence, blending with the faint creak of the floor beneath my feet. The room was a mess. Books piled haphazardly on the coffee table, old magazines threatening to spill over the edges, and a few framed photos that seemed to stare at me from the clutter. The late afternoon light streamed in through the window, but it didn't feel warm. The shadows it cast stretched unnaturally long, twisting across the room like they had a mind of their own. Everything felt wrong. I couldn't shake the weight pressing down on me. It was like the air itself was heavier, thicker. Every breath I took felt labored, like I was drowning in my own living room. The voice on the other end of the line cut through my thoughts, sharp and urgent. "There's no time to explain everything. Listen to me. In 2 hours, you're going to hear a knock on the door. Don't answer it. Don't open that door no matter what. Someone is going to be there. Someone dangerous." I froze mid-step, my breath catching in my throat. My eyes flicked to the door, its peeling paint and worn handle suddenly taking on an ominous presence. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out the steady hum of the fridge. I wanted to respond, to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. How do you even process something like this? How do you convince yourself you're not losing your mind when you're standing in your own living room, listening to a voice claiming to be you? I glanced at the clock. The second hand moved slowly, unnaturally so, as though time itself had started dragging its feet. The ticking, once faint, now felt deafening. "You think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I've lived through this, Emily. I know what's coming. You have to trust me. You need to leave the apartment immediately. Don't take anything. Just run." The voice cracked on the last word, trembling with an emotion I couldn't quite place, fear, urgency, or maybe regret. My hand shook as I lowered the phone slightly, staring at the door again. The silence that followed her words wasn't empty. It was oppressive, like the room was holding its breath alongside me. I couldn't tell if I believed her. It all felt too surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. But as much as I wanted to dismiss it, to tell myself it was some cruel joke, I couldn't shake the feeling in my gut, the kind of feeling that doesn't lie. I stood there, trapped between disbelief and the suffocating weight of what I'd just heard. The clock kept ticking, each second pulling me closer to the moment she warned me about. The room felt colder now, though I couldn't say why. My eyes scanned the apartment, darting over the scattered books, the empty mugs, and the flickering shadow cast by the lamp in the corner. The clock ticked louder with each passing second, the sound burrowing into my ears, relentless and unnerving. My gaze fell on the door. It loomed there, still and silent, but somehow menacing, like it was daring me to approach. Every instinct told me to ignore it, to pretend this wasn't happening. Maybe it was some elaborate prank, maybe I was just losing it. But the voice on the phone, it sounded too real, too much like me. And there was this feeling, this crawling unease in my chest, like the air itself was warning me. I couldn't explain it, but I could feel it. I moved toward the door slowly, each step weighted with hesitation. My hand hovered inches from the handle, my fingers trembling as static hissed through the phone again. The sound grew louder, sharp and grating, like it was clawing its way into my head. The air around me felt strange, heavy, almost like it was vibrating, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Something was wrong. I didn't need proof, I didn't need logic, I just knew. I pulled my hand back from the door, my chest tightening with every passing second. My breaths came shallow and quick, and I couldn't tear my eyes away from the handle. Then the knock came. It was sharp and deliberate, echoing through the apartment like a gunshot. I jumped, my body recoiling instinctively as my heart slammed against my ribs. I froze. My legs wouldn't move, my lungs wouldn't work. That knock, it wasn't just a sound, it was a warning. And somewhere deep inside, I already knew what was coming next. The knocking came again, more insistent this time, each rap pounding into my ears. My grip on the phone tightened as it slipped against my sweat-slick palm. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. All I could do was stare at the door as the relentless sound filled the room, drowning out everything else. It wouldn't stop. The sound was inside me now, hammering against my skull, feeding the fear that had rooted itself in my gut. I couldn't answer it. I wouldn't answer it. But what if? I held my breath, the phone shaking in my hand as I pressed it tighter to my ear. The tension in the room was unbearable, the silence between knocks heavier than the noise itself. In that moment, I knew there was no going back. Whatever was on the other side of that door wasn't here to be invited in. It was here for me. I stood there, staring at the door, my breath shallow and uneven. The pounding of my heart echoed in my ears, drowning out everything else. My eyes were fixed on the handle, the pale light from the window reflecting off its cold metal surface. Sweat dripped down my forehead, tickling my skin as it slid to my jaw. My legs felt like lead. Every muscle in my body screamed to move, to run, but I couldn't. I just stood there, waiting for the next sound, the next sign that I wasn't imagining all of this. The knocking stopped suddenly, leaving behind an oppressive silence that pressed down on me like a weight. My ears strained for any hint of movement, but the quiet was absolute. The phone was still pressed to my ear, though I hadn't realized I was holding it so tightly. Her voice, my voice, broke the silence, sharp and panicked. "Emily, you have to leave now, they're already there." Before she could finish, the lights flickered and then went out, plunging the room into darkness. A gasp escaped my lips as the shadows crept in, filling every corner of the apartment. The only light left was the faint glow of my phone screen, casting an eerie blue hue over my trembling hands. I couldn't breathe. The darkness felt alive, wrapping itself around me, squeezing the air from my lungs. And then the knocking started again. It was louder this time, more forceful. The sound reverberated through the apartment, each knock sharper than the last. The door rattled violently, as though whatever was on the other side was trying to break through. It was too late. I should have listened. I should have left when she told me to. Now, whatever was out there, it was coming for me. I glanced at the clock. The second hand crawled forward, each tick stretching into an eternity. Only a few minutes had passed, but it felt like hours. My hand trembled as I reached for the door handle, the cold metal sending a jolt through my fingers. My mind screamed at me to stop, to pull my hand back. But it was like I wasn't in control anymore. The door called to me, daring me to open it to see what waited in the darkness beyond. The phone screen flickered in my hand, its glow sputtering before going black. The voice, her voice, cut off mid-sentence, leaving me alone with the knocking and the suffocating silence. I turned the handle slowly, my fingers slick with sweat, each creak of the mechanism echoing in the room. The door cracked open just a fraction, and I froze. The darkness beyond it wasn't just empty, it was thick and suffocating, like a void waiting to swallow me whole. I should have stopped. I should have run. But as the door hung open, I knew I'd already let it in. I stumbled back from the door, my breaths coming fast and shallow. My chest ached with the effort of breathing, and my pulse pounded so hard it felt like my ribs would crack under the pressure. The handle moved on its own, the door creaking open with agonizing slowness. Beyond it was nothing but black. The hallway was there, but it wasn't. Just this void, so dark it felt like it could swallow the light from the room. I tried to make sense of it, but my mind was spinning too fast, tripping over itself. The apartment was quiet now, too quiet. The only thing I could hear was my own breathing, sharp and ragged in the silence. I glanced around the room, desperate for anything to ground me. The dim light from the lamp barely reached the edges of the walls, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed alive. They stretched and twisted, mocking me in their stillness. Was this real, or was I just losing it? Every part of me screamed to leave, to run, but I couldn't move. My feet felt glued to the floor, like some invisible force was holding me there. And somewhere, deep inside, I knew it was already too late, that whatever was happening, it was going to find me, no matter where I went. A crash shattered the silence, loud and sudden, echoing from the hallway. My body jerked instinctively, but I didn't move from where I stood. The sound of shuffling footsteps followed, faint but unmistakable, dragging closer. The air changed. It got heavier, colder. My skin prickled and every nerve in my body screamed to run, to hide, but I couldn't even scream. The door creaked wider, moving on its own. I stood frozen, my eyes locked on the widening gap, the void beyond growing larger, darker. Then I saw it, a shadow, formless at first, but undeniably there. It stepped into the room and my breath hitched. It looked like me. No, it was me. Almost. It had my face, my body, but not my eyes. Its expression was empty, hollow, like a shell of who I was or who I could be. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. I knew what it was. And I knew it wasn't here to help. My knees trembled as I tried to step back, but my body wouldn't obey. All I could do was stare, locked in place as it moved closer. I didn't know if it was my future self or something worse. Something I couldn't understand, but it didn't matter. I knew one thing for sure. It stopped inches away, the cold radiating off it like an aura. My heart felt like it would explode, but I couldn't look away. It was too late. Whatever this was, whatever it was, I knew there was no escaping it, no fighting it. It was already here. inherited a clock that ticks backward. The room felt warm, almost stifling as I stepped inside. The dim light from the old brass lamp cast soft, golden shadows over the worn furniture. The scent of aged wood and dust clung to the air, making it feel heavier somehow. In my hands, I carried the clock, small and wrapped in a faded cloth. It was heavier than it looked, the ornate brass edges digging slightly into my fingers as I held it. I've always thought time was simple, straightforward. It moved forward second by second, hour by hour. That's just how it worked, wasn't it? But when I inherited this clock, everything I thought I knew changed. I walked toward the mantel, my steps slow, deliberate. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful, though, just silent, like it was waiting for something. The cloth slipped away as I placed the clock on the mantelpiece. The face was cracked, faint spider web lines stretching across the glass. But the hands, they were perfectly intact. I stared at them, trying to make sense of the strange unease curling in my chest. It had been my great-uncle's. The man was eccentric, always muttering strange things. When he handed me the clock, all he said was, "Emma, you'll understand when the time comes." I thought it was just another one of his cryptic sayings. The ticking started softly at first. Tick-tock, tick-tock, but it was wrong. The sound didn't march forward with the steady rhythm of time. It moved backward, like the clock was unwinding the moments instead of marking them. I didn't notice it right away. It was just a clock, after all, but that ticking, it was different. And once I heard it, I couldn't stop hearing it. It followed me, clung to me, like a whisper I couldn't quite escape. The sound seemed to grow louder, though the room remained still. My eyes stayed fixed on the clock, drawn to it like it held answers I wasn't ready to face. Looking back, I should have put it away. I should have left it where it was, but I didn't. And that was my first mistake. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. The glow of the screen felt harsh in the dim light, but it was a distraction, something to drown out the sound. The clock's ticking had always been steady, faint enough to blend into the background, but tonight it was different. That night, the ticking was louder than it had ever been. It wasn't just a sound anymore, it was something else, something alive. It didn't just fill the room, it filled me like it was crawling under my skin, resonating in my bones. It felt wrong. I paused, my thumb hovering over the screen. The ticking wasn't coming from the mantel anymore. It was closer, so close it felt like it was vibrating through the walls, through the air itself. My eyes flicked to the clock and a shiver ran down my spine. And then it happened. The memories, they came out of nowhere, crashing into me like a wave I couldn't stop. I wasn't in the kitchen anymore. I was in a hallway, my old hallway, bathed in warm, golden light. My feet felt small against the hardwood floor, my hands clumsy at my sides. I was a little girl again, just standing there. My mother's voice called to me from the kitchen, just like it used to. But something was wrong. I didn't belong there. I wasn't supposed to be there. My breath caught in my throat. I knew this memory. I'd lived it before. But this wasn't just a memory. It was something else. I glanced up and my heart stopped. In the doorway of the kitchen, there she was. A child, me, but it wasn't just a reflection or an illusion. She was standing there, staring at me. Her eyes weren't mine, though. They were darker, emptier, like she was hollow inside. I've seen this before. I know I have. But I wasn't a child. I wasn't standing in that hallway, and yet it felt real. It felt like I'd been thrown back, like I was living the past all over again. The ticking grew louder, faster, relentless. It pounded in my ears, a deafening, frantic rhythm that drowned out everything else. My vision blurred as I blinked rapidly, shaking my head to clear it. And then, just as suddenly as she appeared, she was gone. The room went silent, completely, utterly silent. I sat there, staring at the empty doorway, my heart racing. I didn't know what had just happened, but I knew one thing for sure: this wasn't over. Nightfall has settled over the room. The dim glow of the clock on the wall is the only thing piercing the darkness. My eyes are fixed on its face, each tick of the second hand a sharp reminder of something I can't escape. The rhythm of it, unnaturally slow, eats away at me, gnawing at my sanity. The numbers, they move backward. I can feel it in my chest, a pressure building, the weight of time running in reverse. I press my hands to my ears, but it's no use. Nothing can drown it out. This isn't a memory, is it? It's happening right now. Every hour, every minute, I'm trapped in it. Reliving my mistake over and over. A choice I never had the courage to change. The clock's hands begin to twist and contort, moving in ways they shouldn't. The numbers scramble, rearranging themselves in a chaotic dance I can't control. And then, suddenly, I smell it. The thick, bitter scent of smoke of burnt wood fills my nostrils. My heart stammers in my chest, my breath catches, it's all coming back. It was the fire, the one I never told anyone about, my mother's kitchen. The one time I left the candle burning too long. I thought I could put it out, I thought I could stop it, but... The flames erupt from the floorboards, twisting and snapping, licking at the air like a hungry beast. The heat is suffocating, thick and oppressive. I stumble backward, gasping for air, but it's useless. The smoke claws at my throat, choking me. It feels so real, so tangible. I can almost hear the crackle of the fire, feel the heat as it curls around me. My eyes water, I can't escape it. I was the one who caused it. I was the one who let everything burn, but no one ever knew. They just blamed the faulty wiring, the old house. But it was me, I did this. And now the clock, it won't let me forget. The fire crackles louder, drowning out the tick-tock of the clock. My breath is frantic, shallow. My heart races in my chest, and the air feels thick with heat. I can barely breathe, my chest tightening with each desperate inhale. But then, just as suddenly as it started, the flames are gone. The heat evaporates, leaving nothing but the empty chill of my living room. I stand there, gasping for air, my hands shaking, my mind still caught in the haze of the fire. The room is still, eerily quiet, but I can feel the weight of it all. The clock keeps ticking, and I know it's not over. I know it will never be over. The clock has stopped. Completely, the hands freeze at 12 o'clock, not moving an inch, and the silence in the room is deafening. The weight of it presses down on me, suffocating. I can feel it in my bones, the absence of sound. I'm not sure if the stillness makes it worse. I'm disoriented, confused, like I've lost all sense of time. What's real? What's happening? I don't know anymore, I'm trapped. It's not over, it can't be. Every time I think it's finished, the clock starts again, the past doesn't let go. It drags me under, like a flood, pulling me deeper and deeper into the darkness, until I can't remember where I am anymore. I can't stay still. I pace around the room, my eyes darting from one corner to another. The walls seem to close in on me like they're alive, watching. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I can't stop. The floor creaks beneath my feet. The air is thick, oppressive. I feel like I'm losing my grip on everything, and then I hear it. The clock. It's ticking again, but it's wrong, backwards, just like before. Tick, tock. I hear things. Whispers, the crackling of fire, my own voice calling out, begging for help. But there's no one here, only me and the clock. Tick, tock, tick. The furniture. It's warping. The edges blur, like it's decaying right before my eyes, sinking into the floor. The walls are shifting, pulsating, breathing with an unnatural rhythm. But the ticking is getting louder. So loud I can feel it vibrating in my chest. My pulse quickens, panic rising. What is happening? What's real? I thought I could control it. I thought if I just got rid of the clock, if I just threw it away, it would stop. But it's always there, watching, waiting, and it knows. It knows I have to face the truth. The ticking begins to accelerate, each tick faster than the last, until it's a frantic, maddening pace. The room starts to shake. The floorboards groan, and the walls shudder like they're alive, like a heart beating from deep within them. The clock, it's growing louder. The noise, it's unbearable. I can't think, I can't breathe, it's all consuming. And now, I don't know if I'll ever escape it. The room continues to warp around me, the walls bending like they're suffocating the air itself. The ticking fills my ears, faster, louder, relentless. I'm not sure where this ends, if it ever will. Maybe it never will. Maybe this is my reality now. I stand there, frozen in place, my eyes locked on the clock. The ticking, it's all I can hear now. It's deafening, a relentless roar that drowns out everything else. The seconds, they crawl and twist, each one a violent pulse in my mind. I can see the hands spinning backward, faster and faster, the numbers scrambling in a wild, chaotic dance. It's like the very fabric of time is unraveling right before my eyes. Maybe time doesn't move forward anymore. Maybe it never did. Visual. The camera shifts and I catch my reflection in the window. My face. It's distorted with fear, every muscle taut, every line in my expression screaming panic. But the reflection, it doesn't match. It's calm, almost serene. It's smiling. The smile doesn't reach my eyes. It's not mine, and yet it is. It feels wrong, so wrong. It's too late. The clock has taken me. The past is all I'll ever know. And then, just like that, the ticking stops. Silence, absolute, deafening silence. The room, everything, is still. The house, the air, it's like time itself has come to a halt. My heart pounds in my chest, but even the sound of it seems to have disappeared, swallowed by the void. I'm trapped. Nothing moves. I try to breathe, but the air feels thick, suffocating. The silence lingers, heavy, suffocating. I'm lost in it, lost in time. Trapped in a house of secrets. A small, modest living room bathed in warm, golden light. A woman in her early 30s, Sarah, sits on the couch, tea in hand, her eyes lost in the pages of a book. But beneath her calm exterior, something stirs, an unsettling feeling she can't shake. Her voice breaks the silence, calm yet laced with a hint of something darker. I moved in a few weeks ago. It's a small house, but it's perfect for me. The quiet, the solitude, I thought I could finally get some peace after everything that happened. A fresh start, you know. The house was a bit run down, sure, old, the kind of place that creaks and groans at night, but I didn't mind. Suddenly, my phone buzzes, breaking the silence. It's a jarring sound, interrupting the calm. My hand shakes slightly as I set my book down and reach for the phone. There's a strange unease crawling up my spine, but I brush it off as nothing. As my fingers graze the phone, something makes me pause, an unfamiliar sound. A thud. Soft at first, like something heavy just dropped beneath the floorboards. My breath catches and I freeze, straining my ears. Then it comes again, louder this time. A slow, dragging sound, something scraping, like nails against wood. It echoes in the stillness, twisting in my gut. I look around, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. The room is still, but the sound, it's unmistakable. It's coming from beneath the floor. I try to shake it off, but my pulse quickens. My eyes dart around the room, searching for any sign of movement. I bite my lip, forcing myself to stay calm, but there's no denying it. This isn't just the house settling anymore. The scraping sound intensifies, grinding into the silence. It's deliberate, steady, and it's coming from somewhere. Underneath me, my chest tightens. This place, this old house, it's supposed to be my escape. But now, it feels like it's closing in on me. Something's wrong here. The house, it has its own secrets. I'm not so sure I'm the only one living in it, and I think it's just starting to notice me. The room is pitch black, except for a sliver of moonlight creeping in through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. My bed feels cold, despite the warmth of the blankets tangled around me. I'm lying there, wide awake, staring into the dark. My heart is racing, my mind replaying the same thing over and over, the noise beneath the floorboards. It starts quietly, like a scratch, a faint thump. But then it grows, dragging itself along the wood, the scraping sound almost rhythmic. I try to ignore it, to tell myself it's just the house settling, but deep down, I know it's not. It never is. Suddenly, the noise stops. Silence, my breath hitches. I don't dare move, not yet. I lie perfectly still, trying to listen, trying to make sense of it. But the room is so quiet now, it's suffocating. I blink into the darkness, my eyes wide, straining to see something, anything. The moonlight pools around me, casting eerie shadows that twist and stretch as if they're alive. I glance down at the floor where the noise always comes from. The floorboards, they're cracked, weathered. I can see faint indentations, the subtle outline of where the noise always starts. My mind races, thoughts spiraling. What is down there? What's causing this? I can't shake the feeling that whatever it is, it knows I'm listening. Without thinking, I slowly sit up in bed, my body trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. I swing my legs over the side and stand, my feet cold against the floor. I move as quietly as I can, tiptoeing toward the corner of the room where the sound always seems to come from. The closer I get, the louder it grows, scraping, dragging, as if it's moving closer to me. I stop at the edge of the floorboards, my heart pounding in my chest. The wood hums beneath my feet like it's alive. My hand trembles as I reach out, hovering just above the surface. I feel a rush of cold air against my skin, a chill that sinks deep into my bones. I stare down, my breath shallow and rapid. I don't know if I'm scared or if I'm just drawn to it, but I can't move. I can't look away. My hand shakes even more as it inches closer to the wood, closer to whatever is waiting underneath. The next day, the house feels different, heavier, like the walls are closing in around me. I can't shake the sound from last night, the scraping, the dragging, the thumping. It's all I can think about. I pace back and forth in the living room, my eyes darting toward the floor, expecting to hear it again, to feel the floorboards hum beneath my feet. I can't keep ignoring it. The noise, it's real. Too real, I'm not imagining it. My hands shake as I open the drawer and pull out a flashlight, my fingers cold against the metal. The beam flickers weakly at first, and I have to squeeze it tighter to steady my hand. With a deep breath, I make my way over to the corner of the room, where the floorboards creak beneath me with every step. I kneel down, my knees pressing into the hardwood, and aim the light at the boards. The beam cuts through the dark, sweeping over the weathered wood. I can feel my heart pounding, every muscle in my body tensed as I wait. And then it comes again. The noise, the rhythmic thumping like something is tapping against the underside of the floor, trying to get out. I swallow hard, my throat dry. The sound is louder now, closer. I need to know what it is. I can't keep pretending it's nothing. With a deep breath, I reach for the crowbar, my fingers trembling as I grip the cold steel. My palms are slick with sweat as I position it against the edge of a loose floorboard. The scraping sound intensifies as I pry it up, and for a moment I freeze, my heart hammering in my chest. The board lifts with a creak, and beneath it I see nothing, just darkness. But the noise, it's louder now, like something pushing against the underside of the wood, trying to escape. I lower the flashlight, shining it into the small gap beneath. The beam wavers in my shaking hand, but I can't look away. The scraping stops. I don't want to look. I don't want to see what's hiding there, what's been making those noises. But something inside me is pushing me forward. I can't let the unknown control me. I have to know. The beam of light trembles as I peer into the opening, the darkness swallowing everything it touches. Every part of me wants to turn away, but I stay. I stay because I can't let the fear win. Not anymore. I can feel my heart pounding in my chest as I pull the floorboard completely free, the scraping sound echoing in the dark silence. A rush of cold air hits me, musty, thick, like something that's been trapped down here for years. My breath hitches as I crawl into the opening, the narrow space swallowing me whole. The flashlight flickers in my hand, casting jittery shadows along the walls of this hidden void beneath the house. The air is damp, cloying, and it presses in around me. The further I crawl, the heavier it feels, like the darkness itself is pulling me down. I force myself to keep going. I have to know. I have to understand what's been hiding here all this time. And then I see it. I gasp. The beam of light shakes in my hand as it reveals a hidden room. The walls are covered in yellowed newspaper clippings, their edges curling with age, the ink faded and eerie. My breath catches in my throat. There are remnants of something or someone left behind. Old, rusted tools, broken furniture, and piles of tattered clothes scattered across the floor. Everything feels wrong, like the room was abandoned in haste, but it's been sitting here for years. The musty smell of decay fills the space, mingling with the thick silence. I move deeper into the room, my hands shaking as I push a rusted tool aside, revealing an old rocking chair. It creaks even though no one is sitting in it. I have to swallow back the bile rising in my throat. Broken toys lie scattered, their colors faded, chipped like they belong to another lifetime. And then I see it, the walls. They're covered with clippings, missing person reports, faces staring back at me from the paper. Names I don't recognize, but they feel too familiar. My pulse quickens, something isn't right. I approach one of the walls, my fingers trembling as I reach out to touch the brittle paper. It crumbles beneath my touch as I pull a clipping free. I shine the flashlight on it, my hands shaking as I scan the headline. Local woman missing for over a year. No leads, no witnesses. I freeze, my eyes locked on the photo beneath the headline. I know that face, I know it, but it's me. It's my face. My throat tightens. This isn't possible. I've never seen this before. I've never heard of these people, these names, these missing persons. How could they know me? How could I be here in a picture a year? Missing. My mind reels, spinning with questions I can't answer. How is this possible? Why am I in a photo, a missing person's report, when I've been here alive? I drop the clipping, my hands shaking uncontrollably now. My breath comes in shallow gasps as I back away from the wall, my eyes scanning the room. I want to scream. I want to run. But I can't, because somewhere in this room, buried in the past, is the answer to why I'm here. And I need to know. The flashlight flickers again and my stomach drops. The beam wavers, casting long, erratic shadows across the room. I try to steady it, but the light is dying, sputtering like it's struggling to stay alive. The air around me is thick with cold, heavier than it's ever been. My breath forms a fog in the beam, and I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. That's when I see it. In the corner of the room, barely illuminated by the failing light, there's a figure. It's not quite human, a silhouette, its features distorted by the shadows, like it's more part of the dark than anything else. My heart skips a beat. My entire body freezes as I stare, unable to look away. It's still. It's watching me. I don't know how I know, but I can feel it deep in my bones. I swallow, trying to breathe, but the air is thick, too thick. The room feels like it's closing in around me. I can't tear my eyes away from that shadow. Someone is in here with me. The temperature drops and my skin prickles. My chest tightens, and before I can react, I feel it. A cold hand. A chilling touch on my shoulder, as cold as death itself. My breath catches in my throat, my pulse pounding in my ears. I spin around, heart racing, but there's nothing there. Just the room, empty. Still, I stand there for a moment, frozen, my eyes darting around, searching the corners, the shadows. My mind is racing, my heart thudding in my chest like it's trying to break free. But there's nothing. No one, I'm alone, or am I? I turn back to the corner, the flashlight still flickering, and the figure is gone. Vanished. But I know what I felt, I know what was there, it wasn't just a shadow. It was waiting for me, and I was stupid enough to think I was safe. The faces in the pictures, the ones that had been staring at me, the ones I thought were long gone. They weren't gone, they were still here. Still in this room, in this house. And now I'm one of them. The noise comes back, louder, more intense, like something's clawing its way toward me. My breath catches in my throat, my heart slamming against my chest. I can't escape it. I can't escape them. Panic rises within me, flooding my veins with cold fear. My hands shake violently as I scramble to crawl back through the gap in the floor, every movement frantic. The scraping and dragging grow deafening, like it's right on top of me. My skin crawls, and I feel like I'm going to suffocate in the thick air of the room. The floorboards above me groan, the sound like a warning, but I don't have time to think. I need to get out. I need to get back to safety. But as I push with every ounce of strength, the floorboard won't close. The gap stays wide, mocking me, and the room feels like it's pressing in, suffocating me with its weight. I climb faster, my body slipping, scraping against the sharp edges of the opening. My hands are slick with sweat, my legs burning as I push myself up. I can feel the cold air swirling around me, thick and suffocating, pulling me back. The noises are still there, growing louder, angrier, like they're not just beneath me, they're in me now. I reach for the surface, my fingers stretching, but just as I think I've made it, I hear it. A soft, almost imperceptible scrape from below, and then I see it. A hand, a shadowy, twisted hand emerging from the darkness beneath me. Its fingers are stretched toward me, clawing through the blackness like it's trying to pull me back into the void. My breath catches in my throat. I try to scream, but the sound dies in my throat. My body freezes, every muscle locked in terror, but I can't stop myself from staring at that hand, reaching out from the darkness. I don't know how long I've been here. Minutes, hours, days, I've lost track of time. The noise never stops. It never stops. I've tried to leave, to run, to escape, but the house won't let me. It's never let me. I can feel it now, deep in my bones. It's pulling me, keeping me here. I don't know if I'll ever get out. I don't know if I ever can get out. The stranger who knows my secrets. It began so simply, just a message. I almost didn't notice it at first. The screen flickers. A single line of text appears. You lied to her last night. The words hover, glowing faintly before fading into blackness. The static becomes louder. But when I read it, my chest tightened. The room seemed smaller. Who could know? I'm sitting in my dimly lit room. The blue glow of my computer screen bathes my face, the only source of light. My hands hover above the keyboard, trembling. My breath is shallow, my heart pounding in my ears like distant thunder. I remember the silence that followed. It wasn't peaceful. It was wrong. Even the hum of the fridge felt oppressive, like it was mocking me. The shadows stretch unnaturally as faint creaks echo in the background, each sound sharper than it should be. This is my room. I told myself it was just a prank, a coincidence, but deep down I knew better, and that message, that was only the beginning. The screen glitches violently. My distorted face, warped and twisted, flashes for a split second. The static transforms into an unnatural, guttural noise before everything cuts to nothingness. The text on screen says, "The stranger who knows my secrets." The faint static grows louder, punctuated by soft typing sounds. My voice begins, low and uncertain, as if reliving a memory. It started with a message, just a single line on my screen, nothing special until I actually read it. The screen flickers to reveal a dimly lit room. My computer screen glows faintly, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. My hands hover over the keyboard, my fingers twitching. "You lied to her last night." The glow of the screen reflects off my wide eyes. I froze. My fingers hang motionless above the keys as the room falls eerily silent, broken only by the distant, steady hum of the fridge. My chest tightens as though the air itself has thickened. The words weren't from any number I knew, but they cut straight through me, like they saw the secret I thought no one could. A bead of sweat slides down my temple as my breathing quickens. My hands tremble slightly before clenching into fists. The message stares back at me, mocking. It wasn't just a message. It was the truth. I had lied, something small, stupid, just to avoid an argument with Sarah. But how could they know? The screen flickers again, breaking the stillness. A faint buzzing sound grows louder as I grab my phone with shaking hands. I fumble, dialing her number, desperate to hear her voice. I didn't know what else to do. I needed to hear her to anchor myself, to make sure this wasn't real. "Hey, did you text me just now?" Sarah's voice comes through the phone, warm but tinged with concern. Her response feels like a lifeline. "What? No, are you okay?" For a moment, her voice calms me. I let out a shaky breath, my grip on the phone loosening slightly. But then my eyes flick back to the screen. A new message materializes. "Don't involve her, she won't believe you." The glow of the monitor casts a sickly light on the walls. My stomach twists as a cold sweat breaks out across my back. My throat tightens and I can barely breathe. The words clawed at my mind, sharp and unrelenting. My mouth went dry. I couldn't even reply. The sound of static intensifies as I reach out and slam the laptop shut. The screen goes dark, leaving me in the oppressive silence of the room. I stand there, frozen, staring at the blank screen as my heartbeat pounds in my ears. I couldn't stay there. I needed to get away, but no matter where I went, the feeling stayed with me, like I was being watched. The screen fades to black, with the faint hum of the fridge lingering before silence takes over. It's night, and I'm sitting alone in my apartment. Everything looks normal, but it doesn't feel normal. The stillness presses against me, heavy and unnerving. The ticking of the wall clock is sharp and deliberate, each sound amplifying the suffocating silence around me. Hours passed, and I tried to distract myself. I turned on the TV, let music play, even picked up a book. But it didn't matter. Every creak of the floorboards felt deliberate, like someone or something was there, watching me. I glanced anxiously at the clock. The hands seemed to drag, each tick slower than the last. My leg bounces nervously, my fingers tapping against my thigh. I can't sit still. By midnight, I had almost convinced myself it was all a joke. Maybe Sarah was playing a prank, or it was some elaborate scam. That's when I noticed the mirror. My gaze shifts toward the large mirror on the wall. It's ordinary, reflecting the dim glow of the lamp and the shadowy outlines of the room. I stare at my own reflection, my tired eyes, the way my chest rises and falls with each breath. But then, something changes. At first, it seemed normal. Just my reflection staring back at me. But then it moved. A slight tilt of the head, a faint smirk, but I wasn't moving, I wasn't smiling. My breathing quickens as the eye focus on my reflection. It's still me, but not. The grin grows wider, and the tilt of the head feels mocking, unnatural. I swear I wasn't moving. I wasn't. My hands started to shake, and my chest felt tight. I'm not crazy, I thought. I'm not crazy. The sound of my shallow breathing fills the room as I take a step closer to the mirror. My reflection moves with me, every motion perfectly in sync. I lift my hand slowly, pressing my palm against the cold glass. I reached out, trying to prove to myself it was just in my head. My reflection matched me, every move identical. And then, it blinked. The camera focuses on my reflection. It blinks again, slower this time, its smirk growing more sinister. My eyes widen as I stumble backward, knocking over a lamp. My heart races, pounding in my ears like a drum. I ran. Not out of the apartment, I couldn't even think that far. I bolted into my bedroom and slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. Safety. That's what I needed. Safety and familiarity, right? I collapsed against the door, my breathing ragged. My phone buzzes on the bedside table, its screen lighting up the dark room. But the messages, they didn't stop. The screen fades to black. The faint sound of my phone buzzing grows louder, its persistent hum breaking the silence. The bedroom is dimly lit, shadows stretching long across the walls. My phone buzzes on the bedside table, its glow casting an eerie light onto the bed. The sound is relentless, each vibration like a needle stabbing into my nerves. The messages wouldn't stop, each one worse than the last, pulling at memories I'd buried so deep I thought they were gone forever. I have no choice but to see the screen as it lights up with one message after another. You remember the fire. You know whose fault it was. You still hear the screams, don't you? The words burn into my mind as if they're alive. I stared at the screen, my breath caught in my chest. How could they know? I hadn't spoken about the fire in years. Not since. My head spins as I remember the scene of roaring flames devouring a house. There was a younger version of me, standing frozen in the flickering orange light. My face is pale, my eyes wide, reflecting the chaos as screams pierce the air. The sound of the fire crackles violently, overtaking everything. The buzzing stops for a moment, leaving an oppressive silence in its wake. My hands grip the edge of the bed tightly, knuckles white. The room feels smaller, the air thick like molasses. My chest tightened, my pulse pounding in my ears. I wanted to scream to shatter the silence, but nothing came out. The phone buzzes again, louder this time, like a jolt of electricity running through the room. Slowly, I pick it up, my fingers trembling. One final message fills the screen. Let me in. My eyes widen in terror. My lips part as if to speak, but no sound escapes. The words seem to pulse on the screen, drilling into my skull. Let me in. Let me in. The words, they echoed in my mind over and over. Let me in. Let me in. The phone slips from my hand, landing on the bed with a muffled thud. The screen goes dark, but the silence feels alive, pressing in from all sides. My breathing is shallow, ragged, as I glance toward the door, half expecting to see it creak open on its own. The faint sound of the phone buzzing returns, growing louder, almost like a heartbeat. My own racing heartbeat. No one knows, no one should know. The hallway stretches before me, silent and still. My hand hovers over the doorknob, trembling. The cool metal feels wrong against my palm, as though it's trying to warn me to stop. But I can't. My breath is shallow, each exhale catching in my throat. I don't know why I reached for it. Maybe I thought opening the door would make it all go away. Maybe I wanted to prove I wasn't losing my mind, or maybe I just wanted it to end. The door creaks as I slowly turn the knob. The sound is sharp and grating, cutting through the suffocating silence like a blade. I hold my breath as I push it open. The hallway beyond is dimly lit, the faint glow from a distant lamp barely illuminating the space. It's empty, or at least it seems that way at first. The hallway looked normal, ordinary even, but something about it felt wrong. The shadows, they moved when they shouldn't have, shifted in ways that didn't make sense. I saw the shifting shadows, flickering unnaturally along the walls. The faint sound of creaking floorboards echoes, though the hallway is still. My heart pounds in my chest, the rhythm deafening in the quiet. I'll never forget what I saw, or what I didn't see. The emptiness felt alive, like it was watching me, waiting. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was everything. My face, wide-eyed and pale, is this me? My reflection is caught in the glossy surface of a nearby picture frame, but it's distorted, indistinct. For a fleeting moment, it looks like something is behind me. A figure, a void. My breath hitches as I whip around, only to find nothing. My head told me there was nothing there, but my gut, it knew better. The faint creak of the door closing echoes, followed by the sound of a long, slow exhale. Then silence. Did she come back? No, she's dead. Everyone is dead. No one is alive to tell the truth. Do you think it's watching you too? Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's already with you.